I'm going to cook a lovely vibrant dish using loads of beetroot, some couscous and some fish. The fish I'm using is some fully trimmed up fillet of hake, but any fish, cod, haddock, any of the white fish, gurnard, you name it, even mackerels, even oily fish will work fine with this. So I'm just going to say fish in this case. But anyway, what we're going to need today is I have about 120 grams of fully prepared fish, fillet. Try go for something nice and chunky though, that is the only caveat to that. I have 80 grams of whole wheat couscous. I have a full fennel, which I've just sliced up, there we go, just to show you, just sliced nice and thin. And I've also retained a few of the fennel leaves, which I'll just use for garnish towards the end. I have half a lemon, which we're going to just use for juice. I have about 150 gram of grated fresh beetroot. So very simply, peel the beetroot. Good idea to use one of those disposable gloves and grate it on the finer grater and just leave it as a pulp like this. I have a little bit of salt and pepper just for seasoning. We're also going to need about 100 ml of water to cook the couscous and just a little bit of good quality extra virgin olive oil to finish. Now the thing with couscous, normally I'd use about 1.5 or 1 part couscous to about 1.5 by volume water. But I'm going to use more 1-to-1 here, and the reason is because I'm going to be using a lot of beetroot, which contains a lot of water, so I'll just be taking that into account. If it's a little bit dry, very simple to add a little bit of extra water, but you can't take it away and you don't want your couscous to get mushy. So there's our ingredients. The first thing I'm going to do with this is add a little bit of coconut oil, about a teaspoonful, into our pan. And the first thing I'm going to cook will be the fennel. The reason is fennel does take a little bit of cooking. So just allow it to develop that nice flavour. It's a beautiful veg, but it needs to be cooked well. It likes to be kind of just fried a little bit, but I find of all the veg, this one likes to be cooked quite well. I'm going to put a little sprinkling of salt on this. And I'm also going to just put, just to speed it along, about a tablespoon of water into the pan. Just to get a little bit of steam into the pan. Then I'm just going to cover that up and allow that to cook for somewhere between 5, even upwards of 10 minutes. Just keeping an eye as it cooks, take off the lid, move it around, and just get it nice and tender. Quickly just check my fennel. As you can see, it starts to cook nicely. A little bit of water that we'll put into it. And again, I'm just going to add a little bit more water into that, just to allow the fennel to get a steam and become nice and tender. Again, fennel is one of those great veg for to go with fish and complement fish. Got a lovely texture, really unique, slightly anise flavour. So I'm just going to let that cook away and get maybe even a little bit of colour on the fennel as well. Now, as you can see with my fennel, I'm just getting it a little bit of colour on it. And again, adding the water in as it's cooking again is that secret to developing flavour. That's every time you add the water in, you're just extracting a little bit more flavour out. And fennel, again, it likes to get this bit of colour into it as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my beetroot. And at the same time I add the grated beetroot, I'm going to add my couscous. Now on a nice good low heat, let the beetroot and the couscous and fennel all mix together. Let's get all of the pieces of couscous. Now as you can see, I've actually pulled it off the heat here as I'm doing this. Or you could even turn off your heat completely because you don't want to burn the couscous. You just want everything to mix together. And this is going to give this lovely, vibrant red colour to this entire dish. So, there we go. Next I'm going to add the water. Now as I said, I'm using 120 ml of water. And I'm taking into account that there's liquid already in the beetroot, cooked couscous. As you can see, my pan is hot enough that I really don't need to add any more heat to that. I'm just going to cover it with a good tight fitting lid. And I'm going to wait without doing anything for about 5 minutes. And just let all of the liquid in this dish just absorb in together. So literally, but it's very important you don't take the lid off it at this point, because if you do, you're going to lose the steam and then you're going to have to heat it up again. It's just a little trickier like that. So just put the lid on, walk away from it, do something for 5 minutes with no heat on the pan. If the pan was a bit cooler, bring it up to heat, but then turn off the heat and walk away from it. I actually waited 4 minutes exactly. I'm just going to take off my pan, or my lid off my pan, and this is what it should look like. And that couscous is actually almost cooked, but I don't want it fully cooked. So 4 minutes is not 5 minutes, 4 minutes. Now I've pre-seasoned my fish. I'm just going to place my fish into the dish. I'm also going to add a pinch of salt to the dish as a whole. A little bit of black pepper. Now if you found your dish was a little bit on the dry side, just very simply add a little bit more water to it. But for me, it's good to just taste a little piece of the couscous. And it's already quite tender. I'm also going to add a little bit of olive oil at this point. And the juice from half lemon around it. Now the lemon will react a little bit with the beetroot and make it go lovely and vivid red altogether. Bring your pan back up to a heat, making sure not too hot, but just a good kind of cooking temperature. So you look at something like this. When your pan is nice and warm, get your lid on it. At this point, count to 15. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Do not take the lid off it. Turn off the heat completely. And now walk away from the dish for 7 minutes, leaving the lid on it. That should be more than enough heat to cook your fish through. It's also worth noting, I cut the fish into slightly smaller chunks as well. So just allow the fish, just walk away from the whole dish now. Literally count 7 minutes, and the residual heat in that pan should be more than adequate to cook the fish out. But as I said, don't take the lid off the pan whatever you do. Waited 7 minutes. I'm going to just lift the lid, and don't forget there is no heat on this. It's just using the residual heat in the pan. As you can hear, still frying away. And there we are, cooked. You see the fish itself is cooked perfectly through. You have this lovely, vibrant, beetroot packed dish with the fennel giving good balance to it. A little lemon and acidity. And just to finish, I'm just going to put a few little sprigs of the leaf of the fennel herb just around the dish. Just let it pop a little bit. You can put a little drizzle extra of olive oil here. And that is it. Very simple, anti-inflammatory, and also it benefits, you know, it's just a very well balanced. Again, what you're trying to get in your diet here is colour. And that's what something this dish has a lot of.